and how we will miss him. Whether Scott was your friend, colleague, your pharmacist, your mentor, uncle, brother, son, or husband, you're here because you want to honor him and because you appreciate the impact he has had on your life and the lives of others. Welcome, members of the Pitt Pharmacy family. If you are with us this evening to honor Scott and celebrate his life and legacy, you're part of the family that is sharing the memories of Scott's life, along with Scott's parents, Richard and Connie Drab, his sister Kathleen, and her family, Jason, Grayson, Delaney Weisberg, and his wife, Amanda Lawson-Drab. I am Patricia Kroboth, and I'm the Dean of the University of Pittsburgh School of Pharmacy. Scott had told Amy that he would like to have his memorial service held in Hines Chapel. The images you saw, of course, are those of Hines Chapel, and the music that you heard and will hear was recorded there by Pitt Pharmacy family member Bela Pater. Scott was a religious person. Before we begin, I ask that we all take 1 minute in private prayer or reflection in Scott's honor and memory. Thank you. Scott Drab led a life of purpose. We always knew that Scott was impacting a huge range of people in large numbers. His impact, though, became incredibly apparent as we began planning for this evening's celebration of his life and legacy. Honestly, we had requests from so many individuals who wanted to speak that it was quite overwhelming. As we share memories during the next hour, you will hear brief comments from several people, including Scott's sister, Kathleen Weisberg. You will also hear segments of 3 words from faculty and from staff. It is fitting that we share memories of Scott during October, Pharmacist Month. Truly, Scott personified the ultimate in being a caring and dedicated pharmacist. Scott's passion for caring for patients with diabetes was only matched by his passion for teaching. My time with Scott goes back to his student days, for he was a graduate in the class of 1989. Within a few years of graduation, Scott received his first certification in diabetes care. He eventually impacted huge numbers of students through his work in experiential learning until he returned full-time to his community diabetes practice as a faculty member in 2006. I know Scott as a perennially beloved teacher and storyteller extraordinaire. He took special time out for the children in his life. And if you ever visited his office, by the way, there was an image of a shining desk, gleaming desk. You know that his office always looked like a showcase office. His desk was impeccably clean. In fact, it was so devoid of clutter, it looked like no one worked there. Scott was also as particular about the color of his office and the furniture as he was about his Argyle sweaters and Jaguar collection. There is so much to share. What I will share is Scott's impact in the words of a few students and a graduate who wrote to him, and I share only selected sentences from these letters. Dear Dr. Drab, when I went home for break, I told my dad, who's a physician, about my rotation at University Diabetes Care Associates. I told him about the more difficult cases we encountered, including a 27-year-old patient diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and about a woman who was refractory to certain analogs of insulin. I shared how we had to change drugs or adjust dosing in order to control blood sugar. My dad was beyond impressed and told me that many of his senior medical residents were not able to talk about caring for diabetic patients with the degree of confidence I could after rotation with you. Sincerely. Dear Dr. Drab, just thought I'd let you know I passed my CDE, Certified Diabetes Educator, exam today, and I wanted to thank you for everything you've done to help me get there. Sincerely. This last letter shows how well Scott got to know his patients as well as how he impacted students. Dear Dr. Drab, in your clinic, we are seeing the patients that physicians are unable to help, and we are seeing results that they could never achieve. I have learned so much about the importance of continuing monitoring of your patients after we initiate or change therapy. I thoroughly enjoyed the level of responsibility you gave me and all you expected of me. Finally, I would like to thank you for allowing me to enter the lives of your patients, some of whom you have been seeing for almost 10 years. Sincerely. Think about it, to enter the lives of your patients. Yes, Scott provided holistic care, and he showed students how to care for the whole patient. From me and all of us, thank you, Scott. Awesome is the word that describes you. Our next speaker is his longtime colleague, friend, and department chair, Amy Seibert.
It is my distinct privilege to share a reflection in honor of my colleague and friend, Dr. Scott R. Drab, and his impact and legacy here at the University of Pittsburgh School of Pharmacy. Please take a moment to close your eyes and envision a beautiful Pittsburgh evening where we are all walking to this extraordinary Heinz Chapel here on Pitt's campus. The street is lined with Bentleys, Jaguars, and the occasional Honda. Seated in honor within this magnificent chapel, we gather to celebrate a heroic champion of pharmacy and an esteemed educator who has had an unimaginable impact on each of our hearts. Dr. Scott Drab wanted us to gather at Heinz Chapel and share stories. Not that anyone could tell a story like Scott could. He wanted us to celebrate his memory and to forever remember how much he truly loved teaching and patient care. As I attempt to set that stage, it is challenging to provide the words that capture his 23-year academic career and his 36 years in pharmacy, but I promised him that I would do this. You will hear from his beloved colleagues from the Department of Pharmacy and Therapeutics, his treasured friends and colleagues from the entire School of Pharmacy, and dearest to his heart, his students. In August of 1997, I moved back to Pittsburgh to start my academic career and was asked to be on the curriculum committee. I met our director of experiential learning, Dr. Drab, from that very first day that I met him, and we started our faculty positions the same day. I saw his passion and impact on student learning, and it was profound and genuine. He led our experiential programs for 6 years, and anytime there was a student who was displaced or in need, I got a call, as many of you also received that same call. He said, "Amy, can you help us out?" One year I had 24 PharmD students on rotation in my ICU. You couldn't say no to Dr. Drab. He cared too much to allow for that. His clinical rotation was the most sought after of all rotations. Later on this evening, his former students will tell you why. It was life-changing. He provided an environment where students would apply their knowledge, have ownership for their patients, and I mean their patients. Every student had the responsibility to care for that patient as if it were their own mother or father. Dr. Drab took care of people because that's what he enjoyed. His passion for those around him was infectious. Everyone celebrating his impact tonight, who have had the honor of spending any time with him at all, you know that passion. If someone was in need, he was there. If someone needed an ear to listen, he was there. If we needed an auctioneer to raise money for the Grace Lamb Sam program for the underserved, he was there. Not only was he a great auctioneer, he organized the best events for students and faculty to get together. We offered Pittsburgh Penguin games when we could afford to take a large group of students to a game, comedy nights, Dave and Buster's evenings, and we joined our colleagues and students in a night of bowling and laser tag. All of those events were extremely popular, and a lot of the time I had no idea what I was in for. A few times he decided to make bowling and laser tag my birthday party. I drove up to the bowling alley one night for one of our events, and my name was on the marquee. There was a bowling pin with balloons, and my name was on it. It was never my actual birthday. He just got a better deal because he said it was my birthday. You all have similar stories, but they were always about making the experience better for those around him and adding entertainment to the event. The impact that he will forever have on our school is immeasurable. His impressive accomplishments include pioneering in diabetes management. He founded and led a diabetes clinic for over 24 years. He was a certified diabetes educator, a board-certified advanced diabetes management specialist. He was internationally known for providing care to patients with diabetes. He had over 170 invited presentations, 95 diabetes grants, and over 40 publications. With over 24 honors and awards, many of those were teaching awards that included Preceptor of the Year, Teacher of the Year, and Innovation in Teaching. In fact, the Preceptor of the Year award meant so much to him. He endowed that award that is now called the Scott R. Drab Preceptor of the Year Award. He taught in over 20 courses and coordinated 6 of those courses in his career. He would light up a room with energy every time that he taught. Please join me in continuing to celebrate his impact and legacy this evening and forever. I want to leave you with this. Remember to be dedicated to your learning. Be diligent as a lifelong learner. Have devotion in caring for your patients. Love your friends and family. Follow your hobbies with passion and bring humor and laughter to all of it. This is how we will carry on Scott Drab's legacy forever. Thank you, my friend. God bless you, and may you rest in peace. You will now hear from our faculty. Thank you.
I met Scott soon after I started at Pitt. Scott and I coordinated a class together for 20 years. Connie, Rich, Amanda, Kathleen, Jason, Grayson, and Delaney, I'm so sorry. I'm going to try to tell a story about Scott, and I know he was the best storyteller, but I'm going to try to do him justice with a story here. Soon after I started at Pitt, I was traveling to a pharmacy meeting in Kansas City, and I'm at the gate at the airport in Pittsburgh, and I see Scott. And then the next thing I know, I have a first-class boarding pass in my hand. That was Scott, always giving everyone first-class treatment, no matter who they were. And then on the way to the meeting in Kansas City, I'd rented a car, and unfortunately, I got pulled over for speeding. But who got me out of the speeding ticket? Again, it was Scott. Always able to fix things, always able to problem solve. That was just what he did, and he was so fantastic at it. When I called my family, my sisters and my parents to let them know Scott was ill, the list just went on and on of the fantastic things that Scott had done for our family, and especially for my daughter, Natalia. The Pitt football games, the cookouts, they couldn't say enough nice things about all the kind things that Scott had done over the years. Connie, Rich, Amanda, Jason, Kathleen, Grayson, and Delaney, thank you for letting Scott be part of our lives. He will be missed. His impact is immense, and his legacy will live on forever.
Good evening. My name is Natalia Connor, and I am Dr. Connor's daughter. Scott was Tío Pedro to me. Tío is an uncle in Spanish, and he was family to me and always will be. I am adopted from Guatemala, so when my mom came home with me to Pittsburgh, Pedro was one of the first people to meet me. I can't recall the things I did with him as a baby, but I do remember so many things. We would spend holidays with Tio Pedro and his family. For years we would go to Nemacolin and spend Thanksgiving together. It'd be Pedro, his parents, or mom and dad to me, my mom and I. We would eat, talk, and sometimes celebrate my mom's birthday, if her birthday landed on Thanksgiving. And another one of my favorite holidays was the 4th of July. On the 4th, we would go to his house and we would have a cookout, and then he would put on the most amazing fireworks show I had ever seen. Pedro took me to Idlewild and Kennywood every year and to Pitt football games. He was there for everything, my birthdays, my school concerts, my baptism, and my first communion. When I was in kindergarten and first grade, we had donuts with Dad. Everyone in my class had brought their grandpa or their dad. As some of you might know, I don't have a dad. I was sad because I had no one to come with me. So when Pedro heard about this, the first thing he said was, "I want to be there for Natalia." To me, he was like a dad. He would take care of me if my mom was at work or had to do something. One thing Pedro was very fond of was his cars. I loved looking at his cars, and he even took me on rides around the neighborhood. Each year, Pittsburgh has the holiday parade. He was part of the Rolls-Royce Club. The club was invited to show off their cars in the parade. Pedro asked me if I wanted to be in it with him. Of course, I said yes. He gave me so many opportunities to do so many cool things and amazing things. We would go to every car show. The car shows are so much fun, especially the ones where we got KFC. One of the last times I saw Pedro was at the School of Pharmacy Gala. I was so happy to be part of him being awarded the Distinguished Alumni Award. He was so caring to me and to everyone he knew. He lived his life to the fullest, and will never be forgotten.
Hello, my name is Dr. Janice Pringle. I'm a professor within the School of Pharmacy in the Department of Pharmacy and Therapeutics, and I'm deeply honored to be asked to make a few comments about Scott Drab. I met Scott shortly after I came to the program in 1999. He always exuded extreme confidence in terms of what he does, his professionalism, the content area in which he practiced. Over time, I understood that he was identified as one of the top diabetes professionals in the area of pharmacy in the country. And I was part of an initiative that was funded through the school to identify the factors that made him such a strong leader in that area. As time went on, and he began to encounter the challenge with his health, he opened up more to me, and I became aware that he was a very kind, a very empathetic individual, very humble, and I became enormously inspired by him. He was very determined. I would pass him on the stairwell because even in the throes of his illness, he would insist on taking the stairs rather than the elevator, which inspired me to also do the same. And he was also somebody who never complained about what he was dealing with, but always asked how I was doing and the things that I was dealing with. I was enormously inspired by him. I always ask my students every year, who is the best professor they have? And every year they always said the same. It was Dr. Scott Drab. So that was inspiring up until last year. 2019, they were saying the same thing. So I'm deeply honored to have known Scott, to have been inspired by him. I'm very grateful for that opportunity. And I thank you again for giving me this opportunity to bear testimony to who he was as a person, a man, and a professional. Thank you.
Hello. It's an honor to have an opportunity to speak about my friend and colleague, Scott Drab. If I were to select one word that would define Scott, and frankly, that's difficult, that word would be inspirational. Scott inspired everyone around him. He inspired them to be better. And he did it in a really unique way. He did it through his passion for education, his passion for students, his passion for pharmacy, for patient care, his passion for friends, and his passion for family. And lastly, his passion for life. If you spent time with Scott, you wanted to be better at whatever it is you were doing. I was honored to spend many years working with Scott at the University of Pittsburgh. And through Scott's mentorship, friendship, and counsel, he allowed me to be better, to improve, and to believe in many, many things that I did not think possible. He made a lasting impression on me, professionally and personally, and frankly, made me want to be a better person. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. The one thing I think about Scott that I'd like to share with you is this. If you've met Scott Drab, you remember Scott Drab. Because when you met him, he inspired you or touched you in some way, whether big or small, to be better. And for that, I think we're all eternally grateful. Rest in peace, my friend.
The best time and the best meal of your life. Who's going to give me 90? Able to bid 190? 190? Able to get 190? $200 over here. 200. Who got 210? 210. Able to bid 10. Who can give me 210? Able to bid 10. Able to bid 10. Want to look for 210? Able to bid 210. Okay, 210 up here at the front. We got 210. Able to bid 220.
I spent a lot of time thinking about how to say goodbye to Scott. All the words that Meade said about the dear friend, devoted educator, and the passionate caregiver that he was could fill an epic novel, and you would still never reach the end of that book. Scott was one of my first friends here at the School of Pharmacy. I met him during my interview, and he reached out to me even before I arrived to be a preceptor for APPE students. He was instrumental in my own professional development, as I credit him as one of the individuals that brought me on as a faculty member. Throughout the years, I learned so much more from Scott than he ever learned from me. The lessons he taught me far exceed how to collaborate with patients and care teams or how to work alongside with students in and out of the classroom. His dedication across all aspects of his professional career, his vigor for having a healthy life balance, and his never-ending resilience as he dealt so valiantly through the battle that ended his life will be forever emblazoned in my heart. So in the days and weeks and months ahead, when we are all weary of life and tired from the stress and anxiety of the current state of affairs in the world, perhaps we can all take a moment to close our eyes and think of Scott and know that we all have the strength to persevere through trying times, just as he did. You will be forever missed, dear friend.
Scott was a very special friend and an amazing colleague. His courage and dignity were matched only by his genuine caring and compassion. No matter what Scott was going through personally, he always wanted to be there to help you through whatever you were going through. Scott had a sharp wit and a fantastic sense of humor. He could always make me laugh. And he was even willing to laugh at himself. I love the story that he told when he bought his farm in Westmoreland County and his friendly farmer neighbor decided to teach him the difference between field corn and sweet corn. So he gave him a gift of field corn, which Scott cooked and cooked and cooked and couldn't understand why it was never edible. He laughed at himself that day. Scott was also a great teacher and mentor. He always had words of wisdom and great advice, like how to manage your time wisely and how to be efficient. And he was a huge fan of outsourcing, like things like drafting your promotion document or writing out your Christmas cards. And now I understand that was so he could use his precious time on this earth devoted to the things that he loved and cherished most, the people in his life, his family, his friends, his students, and especially his patients. Scott was the consummate professional. His character and spirit will live on, inspiring us to be our best selves, to laugh at ourselves when the occasion calls for it, to give selflessly to others, and to leave this world better than we found it. And that's how he lived his life.
I've known Scott since our time as students in the 1980s at Pitt Pharmacy, but also as a faculty member at the University of Pittsburgh School of Pharmacy. So I know Scott both as a friend and as a colleague. What I fondly remember about him is the time that we would spend together, usually after hours, talking about clinic, teaching, students, and just life in general. Scott loved to share stories with me about his travels surrounding acquiring new cars for his collection, or the time where one of his Jaguars was used in Jerry Seinfeld's Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. Scott used to always make me laugh with his stories because he always added his dry sarcasm to every one of them. Scott was just such an interesting person, and he had opinions about absolutely everything and was always happy to share them with everyone. I remember one time we were talking about fashion, and Scott remarked how he loved things that were of good quality and also classic. And that day he showed me the shoes that he was wearing and said that he had bought 6 pairs of them because he knew they would never go out of style and they would last him for over 10 years. Scott and I didn't always see eye to eye in everything, but we always had honest discussions. One time I remarked to him about the role I believed our government played in helping disadvantaged people. Scott may not have fully agreed with my opinion that day, but what did he do? Scott went out and found a family who was struggling and offered his expertise and financial support to them so that they could improve their lives. Who does stuff like that? Scott Drab, that's who. I miss him dearly.
Hello. When I think of the words that describe Scott Drab to me, there are several that come to mind. First of all, he was a coworker and a colleague. When I first met him, we worked together in meetings and different settings, and when I had an opportunity to work with him, he was always that individual you wanted to be on the committee with, that person you always wanted to talk to in the hallway, that person you wanted to discuss things and issues and problems to solve together because he brought his enthusiasm and his wit and his charm to the building every single day. The next 2 words are friend and entertainer. Scott was truly entertaining and an individual who would make you laugh. Actually, one of my fondest memories was my first time in a faculty meeting. I just happened to sit next to Scott, 2 young assistant professors. I don't know that I made him laugh as much as he made me laugh, but at one point in time, I think we may have been disruptive in an auditorium in the middle of a presentation. So it was truly funny, between the stories about soft serve ice cream that came later, the stories about his having Jerry Seinfeld drive his car, and also the stories about us making comments about presentations were all funny and enjoyable. We also went once a year bowling with several other faculty, and that was always such a great time because it was seeing Scott in his element around the students, which is the environment he loved the most. The final word I'd like to use to describe my memories of Scott is inspiration. His passion and his desire to care for his patients and to train our students was an inspiration before he became ill. But when he became ill and he came in, even in dire times, came into our school to use his passion to advance his purpose in life, that to me is the inspiring message that I will carry with me forever. And anytime I think of Scott, I'll think of the personal inspiration he was to me and was to so many. Rest in peace, Scott. We all love you.
respectful, thoughtful, and funny.
Jaguar, auctioneer, mentor.
Passion, enthusiasm, impact.
Courage, determination, and strength.
Courageous, witty, and meticulous.
Knowledge, dedication, friendship.
Caring, persevere, and humble.
The Scott R. Drab Preceptor of the Year Award at the University of Pittsburgh School of Pharmacy is presented by student pharmacists to recognize preceptors for outstanding teaching contributions during the introductory and advanced experiential learning portions of the professional curriculum.
This award meant so much to Dr. Drab because the students awarded it to him 4 times over his career. It meant so much that he provided a donation to endow this award.
Hello. It's difficult to put into just a few words the impact that Dr. Drab has had on my career and life. I first met Dr. Drab in 2002. At this time, I had recently met with Dr. Gary Stower about the PharmD program at Pitt, and he suggested that I shadow Dr. Drab at his clinic and connected us over email. Dr. Drab graciously agreed, and from that first day in his clinic, I was hooked. He role modeled exactly the kind of smart, caring, passionate, and confident pharmacist that I hoped to be someday. The experience solidified my decision to pursue a PharmD, and I eagerly enrolled in the program that fall. Throughout my P1 year, Dr. Drab was extremely generous with his time, allowing me to shadow him in his clinic on a regular basis. The following year, he was my mentor for the Schweitzer Fellows program and made himself available by phone or email whenever I had a question, as this was my first time starting to learn how to see patients independently. My P4 year, I had the opportunity to complete his rotation, and I just tried to soak it all in. It was, of course, my favorite rotation of the year. Dr. Drab genuinely cared for students beyond their academics as well. Outside of class, he was always willing to consult with me when I needed advice on my husband's diabetes management, and I was overjoyed when he had the chance to meet our children a few years ago during a visit back to campus. To put it simply, Dr. Drab was an incredible person. I'm not sure I've ever met someone who cared more for their students. Getting to be his student, mentee, and colleague these past 18 years is one of the greatest gifts I could have been given, and I'll always be grateful for his time and candid feedback. To close, Dr. Drab, you are a true inspiration, the kind of teacher we should all aspire to be, and you'll be forever missed. Rest well.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kaylee Sams, and I am a recent graduate from the University of Pittsburgh School of Pharmacy, and now a PGY1 resident at the VA San Diego healthcare system. I'm one of the lucky students that had the great honor of knowing and being taught by Dr. Drab. Dr. Drab was unfortunately sick for the entirety of my time at Pitt Pharmacy. But if I hadn't known, I'm not sure I would have noticed, because Dr. Drab sure didn't teach He sure didn't act, and he sure didn't live as if he were constantly battling these ailments. Dr. Drab confided into our class one lecture that there were really only 2 times over the past few years that he felt more like himself, without pain, without discomfort. And those were when he was teaching us students and when he was seeing his patients in his clinic. That type of passion, that type of commitment is something we can only strive for as pharmacists in our careers, but also in our personal lives. Dr. Drab touched so many people, not just his students and his patients, but his friends, his family, and his family at Pitt Pharmacy. To say he will be missed is the understatement of the century. I know that I speak for the entire class of 2020 when I say I want to thank Dr. Drab for everything he did for our class. I know many of us, most of us, carry his lessons with us today and will never forget the impact he had on our lives. Thank you so much for involving me in this memorial service tonight. It was truly an honor to speak upon my time knowing Dr. Drab. I wish he rests in peace. To such a wonderful man, an excellent teacher, and a better friend. Thank you.
Every time I would tell people I went to Pitt, like the first thing people would ask is, how's Dr. Drab doing? And they would go on forever about how amazing of a teacher and how amazing of a person he was. And so before I even had him for class, I knew, how spectacular he was. And then that proved to be true whenever I had him for the diabetes section. And the way he taught diabetes was so effective, and it made me really understand it and become passionate about diabetes. And so for my electives, I took every class that he offered, just because he was such an effective teacher. And the classes that I took were some of the best classes that I could have possibly taken. And over the course of that past semester, I was fortunate enough to be able to help him walk down to his office and out to his car sometimes, although he always wanted to kind of do it himself to keep him going. But I wanted to make sure I was there for support in case he needed it. And during those walks, we had some pretty awesome conversations, learning about diabetes, finances, how to prepare for being a professional, how to just become a great person in general. And he had all of those qualities and was able to teach those qualities. And I'm very thankful for the time that I was able to spend with him over the past year.
Hi, my name is Amanda Korenoski. I'm a Pitt Pharmacy grad, the class of 2012, and I had the distinct privilege of being in some of Dr. Drab's classes. I have a personal history of having diabetes, so I was always looking forward to endocrinology, and it was a really important moment in my career, and that had everything to do with Dr. Drab. He helped me kind of take my past experience with diabetes and marry that with the clinical knowledge and find a way to communicate with patients empathetically and compassionately. It's really something that I've taken with me and try to emulate in my profession now. And he really was a role model for me for that. I was so excited to get assigned his rotation at his clinic, and I just remember talking to patients. They automatically loved you because you were a student of Dr. Drab's, and you could just tell that they appreciated everything that he did for them. They truly adored him. I also took Dr. Drab's community pharmacy management course. I learned a lot, and I'm a manager now, so a lot of those skills I took with me for sure. I also will never forget the pros and cons to buying or leasing a car. I feel confident I could do that based off of Dr. Drab's teachings, but it was just an example of how he could take a kind of complex topic, whether it be endocrinology or something more on the business line, and just find a way to explain it to you and have it stick. I think the thing that I'll miss most about him was just when you talk to him, he made you feel like you were the most important person he was going to talk to. And I got the opportunity to see that and feel that as a student and as a resident, and then as a peer on the faculty. And that's a rare skill. And I'm grateful for the chance that I had to get to know him. He will be missed.
Hi, my name is Carson Shoemaker, and I was incredibly fortunate to have the opportunity to work with Dr. Drab while I was in school. Most of my favorite memories with him involved the PLS auction. I had the opportunity to plan that for a couple years, and he was always our most enthusiastic auctioneer. He was always more than willing to put somebody on the hot seat, whether you were a student or a faculty member or a professor, and provide a little extra encouragement to get us to open up our wallets and dig a little deeper for a very worthy cause. He was always incredibly grateful to participate in that event. And before the event even started, he would send me multiple emails asking what more he could do to get involved and what more he could donate to the event, and if there were any more events that he could help plan that would encourage student participation, because he truly loved spending time with us and getting to know each and every one of us. I was fortunate to go on a couple of the events that he helped coordinate, and he was always able to sit down and talk with the students and share stories about one of his countless classic cars, or the reason that he had a blizzard machine in his basement. He truly cared about who we were as people, and that made him an amazing mentor, not only as a clinician, but as a member of our community. And I strive each and every day to emulate those same values that he did as a pharmacist and as a preceptor.
Hello, my name is David Katz, a student of Dr. Drab's. I want to ask all of you watching this video a simple question. A question that Dr. Drab asked me more often than I probably asked him. And that question is, how are you? Dr. Drab was eager to hear how my rotations were going. We spoke about quarantine and personal matters, like how chronic pain has impacted both of our lives. I learned from Dr. Drab to not let the comings and goings of life stand in the way from asking others as easy as a simple question of how are you? Because those questions are what bring people together, like all of us here today to celebrate. Thank you, Dr. Drab. Rest in peace.
During my first year of pharmacy school, we watched a video of what it meant to take care of patients. This video featured Dr. Drab. I remember thinking afterwards, this is it. This is what I want to do when I graduate. So I was thrilled to learn that he would be reviewing my portfolio because I was planning on asking him if I could start shadowing at his clinic. I walk into his office the day of the review, sat down, and he pushes a stack of papers in front of me. He said, I reviewed your entire portfolio. It has spelling issues, grammar problems, and it's terrible. You're telling me things you're not showing me. You can do better. You must do better. Fix it. Yikes. I remember thinking, I didn't think anyone was going to be reviewing that, let alone put that much time into providing feedback on it. But that was Dr. Drab. He invested time into people. He invested his time into his students to show how much he cared and to really provide that experience that would develop them and push them into the best version of themselves. I started shadowing at his clinic as a P1, where it was this little break room office, and continued going throughout pharmacy school as it evolved into this beautiful multi-room clinic where he saw patients. No matter the area or where he was providing care, his patients followed because they too knew he cared. They knew that they were going to get the best treatment with him. Without a shadow of a doubt, Dr. Drab is the most influential mentor, teacher, faculty that I've ever had in my career. He's one of a kind. His influence extends far beyond the walls of the classroom, and he's going to be terribly missed. I'll always remember the impact he had on my career as a student and now a faculty member, and I'll never forget how much he cared.
Hi, my name is Amanda Lawson. I am Dr. Drab's surviving wife. I'd first like to thank Amy Seibert, Allison Zappa, Larry Kobulinski, colleagues, administration, students, and everyone at the University of Pittsburgh School of Pharmacy. Every single person who had even the smallest part in putting this event together, to remember who we all know to have been such an incredible man. I watched how the school rallied around my husband, supporting him and helping him to keep teaching for as long as he possibly could. He often talked about how his students would help him from his car or help him carry materials or step in to help with technology. But not only does it speak to the character and integrity that Dr. Drab imparted to his students, but I believe these small acts of kindness prolonged his ability to keep teaching, and I think it kept him alive longer than any treatment he could have received in this past year. For that, I am forever grateful. One of our favorite things to do was to collect all the greeting cards that would come in the mail from patients, all the thank yous and well wishes and student cards, and we would just collect them. We would sit on the sofa after dinner and we would read each card out loud to each other. And when his teaching reviews would come in at the end of the semester, he couldn't wait to share them with me and share all the wonderful comments from his students. We would eat ice cream and read every single comment from all the students together in these small little celebrations. And I don't think I ever have seen him smile more than in those moments. And I know every second how lucky I was to be sitting next to such an extraordinary man. Scott was the most loving, kind, and caring and generous person I'd ever met. And I know he loved his students more than anything in the world. And believe me when I say he would be proud of every single one of you right now. I hope you, the students who are watching, take all the expertise, the goodness, the passion, and carry that with you every single day. You are truly his legacy. And we all know that he had incredibly high expectations. So I hope you remember him as you move forward in your careers, and I hope you continue that care and that beautiful compassion in your own lives. Finally, I'd like to encourage anyone who's watching to please donate to the Scott Drab Student Resource Fund to help carry Dr. Drab's love for his students and love for teaching well into the future. Thank you all for helping to keep my sweet Scott's memory alive. Thank you.
Courage, class, and humility.
Generous, witty, and dedicated.
Innovative, funny, entrepreneurial.
One of a kind, the best kind.
Loved, ingenious, resilient.
Kind, funny, professional.
Mentor, partner, and friend.
Charismatic, inspirational, and a fighter.
Compassionate, meticulous, and sarcastic.
Wisdom, levity, and passion.
Dedicated, sincere, and innovative.
A student advocate, a patient advocate, and a gentleman.
Held students accountable.
Inspirational, mentor, friend.
A gentleman, a scholar, and a friend.
Dignified, graceful, and resolute.
Inspirational, a class act, passionate.
Advocate, mentor, and hero.
Engaged, caring, and young at heart.
Optimistic, generous, and knowledgeable.
Amanda, Rich, Connie, Kathleen, Jason, Grayson, and Delaney, it has been our honor and privilege to have worked with Scott these many years. We have made a gift of 2 crystal diamonds, one to his wife Amanda, and one to his mother and father, Rich and Connie Drab. The crystal diamonds are a very small token of our appreciation for the fact that you shared Scott with us. Kathleen Weisberg, Scott's sister, will share her reflections about her brother. Kathleen.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to join you this evening and to speak on behalf of my brother. First, I want to take a moment on behalf of my parents, Connie and Rich Drab, just to again say thank you for the beautiful crystal that was sent to them from the university. I can tell you that it will hold a place of honor in their home and will always be a reminder of the work that Scott did, the work that he absolutely loved at the university. Next, I just want to take a moment to thank everyone who made this memorial this evening possible. Obviously, Dean Kroboth, Amy, Allison, and other countless people, the entire University of Pittsburgh School of Pharmacy, and of course, everyone who has shared from the heart this evening. I can speak on behalf of the family to say that it gives us such joy, such happiness, knowing how Scott touched each one of your lives in so many ways. And I'm sure for every story that was told here tonight, that there are countless others that remain in the hearts of students, patients, colleagues, friends, loved ones, and countless others of which we'll never know, but they'll remain in their hearts, and we know how much Scott touched them. I'll keep my personal comments brief. You all have come to know Dr. Drab, but I, along with my family, know Scott. Son, brother, brother-in-law, uncle, cousin, godfather, and more. And for anyone who's listening in this evening who has a big brother or even a big sister, you'll probably identify with some of the short vignettes that I'm about to share. Now, Scott was 4 years older than me, And as most older siblings do, they torment. And so just to give you an example, when taking a vacation photo, he would tell me, move just a little to the left, a little to the left, a little more. Okay, that's perfect. Take the photo. And the photo was taken. And of course, when it was developed weeks later, because we didn't have digital back then, all you could see of me was maybe a shoe or a hand. You couldn't see me, maybe the tip of my hat, because I was cropped out. Or when he was sure that my mom and dad weren't looking or paying attention, he would ask me, like seafood? And of course, we all know what that means. And I think my personal favorite, when learning to ride a bicycle for the first time, he conveniently left out the part about how to apply the brakes shortly before pushing me downhill directly toward a swamp. So that was not pretty. So a few funny stories, but the flip side. Your brother is your first friend and a friend for life. There's no two ways about that. And as my big brother, he watched out for me. He helped me. Whether it was helping me off the neighbor's dirt mound when I was a kid and I got stuck there, taking me one year trick-or-treating, teaching me how to drive because my father didn't have the patience to teach me, but Scott did. Or driving to Buffalo to pick me up from college when I got stranded in a snowstorm and so desperately wanted to come home for break. He was there. You know, Amy in her initial comments used that phrase numerous times. He was there, and I think it resonates with a lot of us. He was there. He was there for my mom and dad. No two parents could ask for a better or more devoted son. He was there for my kids, his niece and nephew, who miss him terribly, always making up a funny song or just trying to make them laugh, goofing around at holiday dinners or family dinners. I think for me, I can best summarize my thoughts about my brother with this. When I completed my doctoral degree, and Scott was sick at the time when I completed that, I dedicated my work to my brother. And I would like to read to you the passage that I wrote to him. I wrote, "All my life, I have looked up to you and the remarkable success that you have had as a person, a pharmacist, and an educator. Years ago, when you received your doctoral degree, I recall thinking that I, once again, wanted to follow your example. You are the driving force behind what motivates me, and for that I am infinitely grateful. I admire what you continue to accomplish despite adversity, and I respect how you manage myriad tasks in both your professional and personal lives with ease and confidence. I am fortunate to have you as a mentor, a brother, a colleague, and a friend, and I think we can all, hearing the stories tonight, relate to that. It is incredibly hard, it is so hard to say goodbye to someone that you've known your whole life, someone who I loved, I looked up to, someone who inspired me to be more, just more. He was an inspiration and a help to so many, and that has been made abundantly clear this evening. I think we can all truly agree that we have been blessed to have had him in our lives, to know him, to be touched by him in some way. He has gone too soon, but I, along with others, know that we will see him again someday. So again, on behalf of my parents and my family, many thanks to everyone who's reached out to us in so many different ways, everyone who has shared, and again, especially everyone who has made tonight this memorial and celebration of Scott's life, the lovely tribute to his legacy that it's been. Again, thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. I bring my comments to a close and this event to a close with the words of our friend, colleague, mentor, brother, son, uncle, husband, who shared these thoughts at the 2016 graduation when he accepted the Stanford I. Cohen Teacher of the Year Award. I share only selected sentences. And I quote, "And now I have the best of both worlds, for I have found my home at the School of Pharmacy, teaching others how to care for patients so that one day they can be an even better pharmacist than I am. As I close, these are his words. As I close, please let me share with you a few parting words of advice. Always be kind to others. Think before speaking. Actions speak louder than words. Words and actions always have consequences. Don't sweat the small stuff. Focus on what truly matters in life and find balance as you are now embarking on this next phase of your life. If you think of his words, the words I just read, I'm pretty sure that we all agree that Scott Drab lived the advice he gave. Let us all follow Scott's example in the advice he gave to the class of 2016. May you all be healthy. Thank you for sharing this time with us at Pitt Pharmacy as we reflected on the beautiful life and legacy of Scott Drab.